Well, Adrian, every time the Australian Grand Prix rolls around, we're always reminded of the many close connections between supercars and Formula One, and you probably have one of the greatest connections of anyone in our pit lane. You actually worked at McLaren for almost a decade.
9 years, 10 years.
Yeah. So much to talk about in that regard, but I want to go right back to the beginning of your story in motorsport. How is it that you came to be part of this game as a young kid? What were you watching? What influenced you? What inspired you?
Yeah, it's a bit of a long story. I mean, this is season 41 for me. Wow. So originally my uncle, we used to be in sprint cars in the UK, so as a 2-3-year-old we'd go and see some sprint car races. And my older brothers were into bikes, so I sort of grew up around cars and machinery and things like that. And then as a young age, about 12, I was doing the paper round, you know, every sort of school kid does it to earn a buck. And one of the houses had Autosport magazine, so this is early 80s. And I used to sit on his wall and just read Autosport before I'd deliver it. And then I was watching the Grand Prix on TV. And when I came to sort of 14, I started marshalling at Donington Park, which was probably 7 or 8 miles away from where I lived. I just naturally fell into it. You know, I answered an advertisement in Autosport for a sort of team gopher at 15 years old as soon as I left school, and got the job straight away. Left home on a Monday morning. Wednesday we're in Zandvoort for our first race in Formula 4 2000, and it's just, I just loved it. Fell in love with it straight away, and you know, we were supporting Formula 1 races in that season, and I just knew that's where I wanted to get to. So I sort of very quickly identified I wanted to be in F1, and then bounced around a couple of the smaller junior teams to get myself in the big sort of junior teams, like the big Formula 3 teams. We won a couple of championships with David Bradman. Yeah. 89 British Formula 3 championship, and then we won in Macau. So yeah, we had some good success on the way and ended up at McLaren in 91.
So tell me though, when you went to Donington as a young kid to be a marshal, what was it about it that was so intoxicating that made you think, I've got to be a part of this?
Yeah, I think it was just, I don't know, the association with what you were seeing on TV. You know, I was watching the races. I'd ride my bike out there at 14 years old. I'd bunk off school, and they'd give me a Land Rover, and I'd drive the Land Rover around the circuit, round to the old hairpin. I'd park it behind the wall with a radio. And Tolman were testing there, and McLaren, and these guys, and I was 14 years old. And I was like, this is cool, you know. And then at lunchtime, I'd just go and hang out in the paddock, and I'd just be looking at what's going on. And I don't know, it's just the excitement, you know, seeing your sort of idols, seeing all these, John Watson, these sorts of guys just testing these F1 cars. I was just drawn in, started talking to the pit crew and the mechanics there, and they were showing me around the car. And so I just sort of, I don't know, I just fell into it and thought, this is the career I want.
It's amazing what you can manifest too. I mean, at that age, in those really early days, did you actually have any concept of what you wanted to be in the game and where you might end up? I mean, did you ever have aspirations to be a driver? Did you know that you were sort of more mechanically minded and that was going to suit you better? How did you actually formulate what that path was going to look like for you?
Yeah, look, when I go back to those days when you're doing the paper round, I used to get karting. There's a magazine in the UK. I had a little go-kart, but I knew, I came from a family, I was the youngest of 4. Father was a printer, mother was a social worker. We didn't have a lot of money, and whatever money we did have, my brothers and my sister had spent it on the way through. So I knew there was no support there. I did the old letter to the local businesses trying to get support, as every sort of 12, 13, 14-year-old kid does, and you got knocked back every time. So I sort of worked out that I wasn't going to drive. So yeah, it became more, once you're in the system, you just always wanted to do that next step. When I was a mechanic, I wanted to be chief mechanic. I got to be a #1 at McLaren, and I knew my next step to the chief mechanic and team manager's role was too far away. So I sort of came out of Formula 1, got married, had started a family, but stayed in the system. So then I went engineering back in Formula 3 with a very good friend of mine, Trevor Carlin. That's where I met James, engineer James Courtney. And that's when I sort of dwarfed into the management side of things. It was just hard work. It was really, really hard work. And then that's it. Again, I bumped into James, Melbourne Grand Prix 2006, and that's how the Australia part of my life came about. We had dinner Saturday night, and then 3 or 4 months later he rings me up. Steve Johnson came to dinner that night. And then James comes back and says, oh, that guy that we had dinner with, they're looking for a team manager, boss sort of thing. I said, are you interested? And I'd just done 6 weeks travelling without going home. My daughter was like another inch taller when I came back. She's doing things that she wasn't doing before, you know the story. And then I said, yeah, come on, let's go and do it. And now I sort of find myself here. I think I'm in a role that suits me now. I really, really enjoyed the last 5 years at Supercars. Before joining Charlie again, but I think the politics and all the stuff that went on there just finished me off, and now I'm glad I'm back in Teamland.
Yours is really an authentic story from the ground up, isn't it? Building yourself into, the highest of highs to sit at the top of the tree. So take me back to those early days and your first real success, I guess, pursuing this career in motorsport. David Brabham, 1989, winning that championship. Can you remember those moments of success and what it meant to you, and could you fully appreciate it at the time, just what it meant to be able to be on that progression? Yeah,
you probably didn't see where you were going to go, obviously, but the competitive side of me has always been there. When I was at school, I was in the rugby team. I got up to the point where I had England schoolboy trials. I didn't make it, I wasn't good enough, but so I've always been in teams, always been competitive. Everything you do, you try and win. And in those early years in Formula 3, I had a fair bit of success. We worked with some good drivers who went on to do big things. And Brabs was one of those. I'm still good friends with him now, and now they're friends with his son, Sam. And I just think some people are born with a competitive streak in them. When I first arrived here, as an example, I was at DJR. And some of the guys, I turned over a few people because when we'd finished the event on, say, Sunday night and we're loading up and the guys were all happy, and I'm getting into them saying, guys, we were frigging 6th or 7th. If you're not pissed off like I am, you need to find another job because we're here to win. Yeah. So I've sort of always been, and that's how I was a little bit at DJR, and we built a good team, but we built a good team of like-minded individuals, and then you can actually go on and achieve something that you probably shouldn't have done. We did a bit of giant killing that year, but you get a massive sense of reward from that. And for me personally, that was one of my greatest and proudest moments, because as a team, we achieved something we probably shouldn't have. The individuals on their own couldn't have done it, but as a team, we did some giant killing, and it's really, it's a very proud moment. So
was it, I guess, those traits from those early days that sort of instilled that culture in you? Is that in Formula 3 sort of where you learnt that if you couldn't go out there and be a giant killer, you were never going to make it? I mean, how formative were those early years for you in you trying to work out your style and
definitely
the sort of guy you needed to be to survive in that world?
And now I've been lucky enough to work with some very successful people. So Trevor Carlin is I see him as one of those, and that I was really young working with Trevor, and some of the things he taught me, you carry on, but they're no more so than Ron Dennis. When I arrived at McLaren, Ron was, he was at his peak. We'd just had Ayrton for 4 or 5 years or whatever, and the standards he set, you still rely on them today, and I'd still try and impart them today on the youngsters we have in our team. And when you walk into McLaren, their view is, I don't care what you've learned before you came here, this is how I want you to do it. So we didn't actually recruit from outside or from other F1 teams. They always go for the Formula 3 teams to get their new, future mechanics and stuff, because they want to teach you their way. It was amazing. It really was amazing.
Let's get to the beginning of your tenure at McLaren. How did it come about, and was it something that you felt like, this opportunity's here, I've got to really run at it hard? Had you earmarked them particularly, or you just wanted to make it into Formula 1? How did it all go down?
No, I don't think I'd earmarked them specifically, but again, so like I said, I was working with Bruce Jenkins. Bruce had just come from there, and to be honest, I can't actually remember whether it was Bruce told me they're looking for people or I saw an advertisement, but I threw my hat in the ring. Bruce put a good word in. I had the interview, and
were you nervous in the interview?
I never normally get nervous in interviews. I don't know why, but I think the older you get, you don't really have interviews anymore, do you? You sit around a coffee and you do a deal sort of thing. But I was in awe of the place, and you would be, walking into their factory, and you sat in reception, and you've got a lineup of championship winning cars sitting there. So I probably was nervous at the time. But I was excited as well because I thought I was a decent young kid. I've been winning some races in Formula 3. Why wouldn't they want to employ me? I had ambition. Like I said, I told Dave in the interview I wanted this job. That's when he asked me where I saw myself in a few years. So, but going in there, it was amazing. It was amazing. You're busy as. You were, at that time in the early 90s, we had a test team that was actually bigger than our race team. And we were able to run 4 cars in 2 different locations in the world on the same day. We had that many people. So we had 2 cars that lived in Japan and we had 2 European cars. That's just the test team. There's the race team and their cars as well. I can remember 92, I think it was. We brought out the MP47. It was a little bit late, so we went to first or second race in Brazil. We had 6 cars there. So I was on the test team at the time. The test team took 3 of the MP46, which was the car before, and the race team had 3 MP47s. So with 6 cars at a Formula 1 race. And in those days, the rules would let you do it. So, that's one of my memories that you're never ever going to forget. Sunday, I'm on the grid on Ayrton's car. It wasn't my car, it was helping the race team, but I'm sat on the grid with Senna on, I don't know, front row or second row, wherever we were, and you're right up against the crowd there at Sao Paulo, and they're all just obviously going mad for Ayrton, and it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it again now. It's just an amazing experience that, it's etched in you. And it's quite hard as well now because the social media is just all over Ayrton, even 30 years, past. What happened, and for me, it gets emotional because it was tough. And at the time when you're enjoying that, 91, 92, 93, you don't know what happens in 94, so you probably don't enjoy it and take out as much from it as you should have done if you had the crystal ball. And when you look back on it, you think, okay, well, the experiences are great, but what happened was so, I don't know, it was so sad, obviously, for everybody, but it's, you look back and you think you missed opportunities with someone as iconic as that, because when you're there in that moment, he's not that icon yet. He sort of becomes the icon after his tragic passing. So it's quite, I well up. Seeing him in a Williams, no disrespect to Williams, I struggle seeing that. Because for me, he was always a McLaren driver. And when I was there in Imola, 1st of May, 94, it's on the grid, I was with Erwin on Häkkinen's car. And Ayrton was in our garage on Saturday night. Came in, just stood this close, round the front of our car, just chatting away, and he's telling us he can't get comfortable in his car, and they're adjusting the steering, and just those memories were, it's quite emotional. But it should be, because he was such a bloody legend. And and then Sunday night, I remember sat there on the steps of the motorhome, bringing my partner in tears, because we knew what happened. You just distraught. Everyone was just could not believe it. Really just could not believe that something like that could happen. And then I have another memory, which I love the memory, because that evening we turned around one of the cars to go testing. We went back to this little Italian restaurant that we always used to go to. We're in our Marlborough gear. You walk in and it's like 11 o'clock at night. They shuffle some tables together, don't say a word to us. And then wine, bread, pasta, everything just comes out. We didn't even need to order. They could just see how upset and distraught and emotional everybody was. They really looked after us. And when I think for me, that's just an amazing show of humanity from those guys. It's on the TV, it's all over the news. And I'm sort of welling up now thinking about it, but it was I look back on it 30 years later, it was a really beautiful moment, but a hard one. Now, it's harder now than it was then. But they're the bad things that, happen. And, Roland, I'd worked on Roland's car in Formula 3. So Roland passing the day before and then out, and it was, that's the bad side of F1 when it goes wrong. And it's very powerful. It still is now. I'm a massive, everything. Ayrton's just, amazing person.
Tell me what he was like.
He's great. There's the public side, and the hard exterior when he's at an event and everyone's chasing him, but then inside the team, he's fun, he's crazy, he was always playing games. We went to Pembury testing that Lamborghini car, the white Lamborghini car. There's only myself, Rich and John, with the mechanics on that car, all the stuff that Lambo did. And he totally flies into Pembury. We're all sat there in the garage, and it's a small little sort of rural circuit in Wales. And he jumps in the car, he'd never been there, so which way? So we send him out the gate, we say, oh, it's left. So he turns left, does 2 laps, comes back in, and he goes, oh, you funny, beep, and then does a donut and goes back out the right way. So you could have a laugh with him. He was good fun when you got him away from the stress and hassle of an event weekend. He was good. You know, he always walked in, shook hands, said morning. He'd always come and see everyone before he left in the evening. Yeah, great person. Really very complex, obviously. When he's in the car with the helmet on and he's working, absolutely incredible. Yeah. Absolutely incredible.
What was the impact that he had on McLaren when he was there at that time? What was the dynamic like between he and Gerhard? Well, I mean...
Oh, those two were, a pair of them were like 2 peas in a pod, you know. Ayrton knew that he wouldn't challenge him or didn't have the talent to challenge him. So for Ayrton, he was a perfect teammate. And they got on so well. Gerhard had his back. He totally had his back. And they were pulling pranks on each other all the time, you know, throwing briefcases out of the helicopter as it comes into Monza, and, you know, we'd have joint tea breaks after the race where we'd debrief with the whole factory, and Ayrton would come in from every now and again and he'd leave his briefcase up in Ron's office, and Ron would sort one of the fabricators, you know, mate of mine, Austin or someone, would go up, get the briefcase, and while we're doing the tea break, they'd weld a steel cage around it. And then he'd be, you know, on a schedule, we've got to go and get a flight or something, so he'd go up and get his briefcase and just find it welded into a box that he basically couldn't get out of. They were, you know, cutting each other's photos out their passports and putting in random pictures of porn stars and things in his passport, and, you know, they went diving and they were 15 metres down and they're turning Ron Dennis's bottles off when they're 15 metres. They just do some crazy shit, you know. It was good. It was good fun, considering how professional and serious the work side was. The fun side was fun, and Ron was a great one for that as well. The way he looked after the staff and the families, it was second to none. You know, absolutely second to none.
What was the greatest lesson that you learned from Ron Dennis?
No, just close enough is not good enough. I mean, that's not a phrase of his, but that's what he did. Everything was, if it wasn't right, you had to do it right. There's no second best. There was no other way. You could not be close enough. Couldn't be. That's okay. It had to be right. It had to be perfect in everything you did. You know, sometimes it would frustrate the crap out of you. You're middle of bloody qualifying somewhere, I remember, and I think we'd had an accident, or we were changing wishbones, we're doing something, and there's a bit of oil or fluid on the floor, and he stops me to wipe it up, and I'm like, mate, we've got like 12 minutes left in qualifying. If you want to get this next run in, I need to fix the car. And he stops you to clean up the mess on the floor. I mean, that's just how he was. Yeah. But he was great, you know, you knew when he was going to arrive, because 30 minutes before Ron walked in, Dave Ryan would walk around, he'd grab Steve, the chief truckie, and they'd be looking at everything, just fingerprints, and they'd do their little inspection. You think, RD's close, and then, you know, then Ron would walk in, and everyone would be, you know, neat and tidy, and everything would be put away, and it was just like that 24/7.
Yeah, wow.
There was no let up, you know.
I've been lucky enough to go to the MTC.
Yeah.
And so you telling me that explains the way that place was designed, continues to be operated today. I mean, 100%. He was just meticulous in the detail.
And it's great that they've carried that on, you know, and so I like that. I mean, you walk down the pit lane at the F1 race and you look in their garage and you can see he's been there, you know, 20 years before, 30 years before. So it's just great they've carried that on.
So you start out in the test team at McLaren. How did you progress and where did you end up, and how did you know when you'd sort of hit the ceiling there? Yeah,
so did the first 2 years, I think, on the test team. Did a couple of races in that period, you know, supporting the race team. Got on the race team on the spare car, first of all, as a number 2. And then 95, I think it was, got onto Mika's car. I ended up with Mika for like 4 or 5 years, so we got on really, really well. and then became #1 mechanic. And I got to that point, late 90s, where I'd been with my partner 6, 7 years. We wanted to get married, wanted a family. So I said, okay. So they just put in a new chief mechanic. And I went to Dave and said, you know, what's next for me? Because, you know, I want your job, sort of thing. And he says, well, you'll be the next chief mechanic, but you've got to wait for Mike. And I knew Mike was a lifer. You know, he's still in Formula One now.
Yeah.
I knew waiting for Mike would be 5, 6 years. So I took the decision to leave. We actually attempted, me and one of my best mates, Boyo, attempted to set up our own team. And that's the closest I've ever actually been to. I've been in this forever, obviously, but I've never owned a team. And I've never really wanted to. This was the only opportunity where I looked at doing it. So myself and Boyo, so I'm still at McLaren, we put this proposal together for Ron and for Norbert Haug, who was the then motorsport boss of Mercedes. He was the big boss of Mercedes. And we put this junior team concept together. This is before this all became the fashionable thing. So we put this team together for him. I had Jenson Button and Narain Kardikayan, 2 great drivers, and we gave them this prop, and Ron's like, no, not for us at the moment. No, we won't do it. So, okay. Did Japan, won the World Championship with Mika. I sort of carried on and said, okay, I'm leaving. The Formula Ford Festival's going on at Brands Hatch. Jenson wins it. The next morning, Ron, ATB, let's do this thing. I'm like, mate, you've missed your window. Jenson had just signed the week prior with another team. And yeah, Norbert Haug's on the phone, right, let's make it happen. We need to do it. Let's go and do it. It's a great idea. But we missed the shot by about a week. And we would have been a sort of McLaren junior team, Formula 3 team. So it never happened. So I carried on the left anyway. Went to work with Trevor and Boyo. My mate was the other engineer. So I was one engineer, Boyo was the other engineer. And then, so then we had the likes of Takuma Sato, Anthony Davidson, James, and we set up the World Series Renault team. So I did Formula 3 for a couple of years. And then Trevor we were expanding the team. So I think I was employee number 5 or 4 or something. We were right there at the start. And then we set up the World Series Renault team, which I did. So I team managed and engineered on that. And I think we were second in the championship in year 1 with Narain again, and Tiago Monteiro, Olivier Pla, Bruce Joanny. Not many people in Australia will know them, but they're bloody good European single-seater drivers.
Yeah.
And then when I'm in that phase, that's when the Russian arrived, wanting to do Midland F1, and that was a Sunday night phone call from Trev saying, all right, be at my place 7 o'clock, put your suit on. We're going for a meeting. So I rock up 7 o'clock in my whistle and flute, and I says, where are we going? I says, oh, we're going to Silverstone. I says, oh, what are we doing there? I says, oh, we've just bought Jordan, you're now the team manager. I'm like, you what? So we were on this plan for 2006. Bernie Eccleston had realised that Eddie's like really in financial trouble and going under, and broke us a deal for Alex Schneider, his name was, to buy Jordan off Eddie, and we just helicoptered in. We arrived there like 8:30 in the morning, 250 people are assembled. We walk out on this balcony and holy shit, Brazil was 6 weeks away, and it's like, you know, you're now team manager of an F1 team. I'm like, oh, okay.
That escalated really quick.
Did escalate quickly. I suppose I've now got Dave Ryan's job.
Yeah.
But not in the way that I thought it had ever happened. So that's how I ended up back in F1. But that was just a crazy place. It was underfunded. You've got, you know, 1 if not 2 hands tied behind your back. You just can't get yourself out of trouble because it's a money business. And that's what led to me to have that sort of life moment with James and say, okay, well, if we're ever going to go to Oz, we'd been here, you know, dozens of times. My sister was living in Sydney. It was like, if we're going to do it, now's probably the time. So it made sense to come down at the time.
When you look back on that tenure in Formula One, what are the greatest moments for you? I know a lot of it is tied to victory, but your fondest memories, the ones that you really hold close to your heart.
Yeah, well, you're right, it's victories. It's Monaco, winning Monaco, and being on the grid with Ayrton. Being on the grid with Ayrton was special. Everything you did with Ayrton was special. Yeah, there's a Mick was special, you know. Being on his car was, yeah, it's pretty special. And then you win, yeah, we won in Japan last race. You know, to win something like that was, yeah, it makes you smile, makes you look back on everything and say all the hard days have been worth it, you know. The stress we'd all been through with Ayrton as a team, because he was like our boy, you know. For the team to start winning again and go into another sort of era of dominance was, because so many of those people from Ayrton's days were there still. It was just beautiful to do that. It meant so much for so many. It was a great thing to do, and it was hard to leave and enter into my next stage of my career. Because, you know, you very rare that you walk away from something that's winning. But I had to do that for Jean, and, you know, and we wanted a family, and I needed to take that next move.
Tell me about meeting James Courtney at Carlin and what you thought of this young Aussie whippersnapper who'd carved them up. I mean, he had incredible credentials and was on his way to becoming a Formula One star. What do you remember about him during that time? What made him special?
I probably can't repeat a lot of what I remember about James in those days.
We won't tell anyone.
Well, look, you just, again, he knew. See, he was up against, he was driving for Paul Stewart Racing. We were first and second in the championship. He was third. So he's getting to know you already, because he's already made his mind up. If I'm doing Formula 3, I need to go there. So me and him were laughing and joking in the paddock a little bit anyway. And then the opportunity came for Gowie, his manager, got him into our team. Jaguar paid the bill, so we didn't really have any branding on the car. They were funding it, and he was the next kid. And yeah, mate, you knew he was special. You're not going to say he was Ayrton Senna special, but you knew he was going to go the full way. I think we had 15 poles in the first 16 races, and I remember we didn't win the first 6 races. I'm on pole for each of them, and we didn't win. And I'm getting into him. I'm like, mate, what is going on? What's going on with our starts? Our starts are shit. And he's like, oh, I didn't tell you, I'm sort of colourblind. And I'm like, you what? So, and his reactions, have you ever noticed his hands? He shakes like you wouldn't believe. He's got something's gone on, whether it's an accident or something, but he shakes a lot. So I took the car to a little airfield, got a set of red-green lights on a podium, and we sat there and just doing starts all day. And then went to the next race, Knock Hill. Yeah, we're on pole again, obviously, and bang, he's away. And they did not see which way he went for the rest of the year. We were flying, we were absolutely flying. We're leading the championship by a mile. And then the Monza accident happens, and they didn't really look after him that well. It was a little bit disappointing, to be honest. I still had relationships with Sid Watkins and Gary Hartstein and the medical crew from F1, so I rang Gary and said he's on his way back from Monza. Yeah, what should we do? And then he got me in, so I went and got him in the next morning after he landed. Took him for an MRI, because those guys didn't do much. It was a little bit, I've got to be careful what I say, but they could have handled it a lot better. Anyway, massive swelling, side of the brain. They said you can't drive, you can't race for 5 weeks. If you have any type of impact, you can, I don't know what the medical term is, but it could kill you. If you have another impact, it could kill you. So we parked him up. We put a young Irish kid, Derek Hayes, in the car. We're winning races with Derek. James comes back, and he's just not the same James. You know, he's not the lively kid that you see now, and that's what we had before the accident. He's just slow. You know, we weren't quick. You know, I'd go and talk to the other drivers and his teammates and say, are you watching him on the track? What's he doing? And they're saying his lines are good, but he doesn't use any curb. You know, he's just not using the full width of the circuit. And I'd say, mate, well, why aren't you using the, and I'd look at the data and it all makes sense. And I'm like, why aren't you using the curbs at turn 3? He says, I can't. I says, I just get a chronic pain and instant migraine as soon as I touch the curbs. So his brain was still frazzled. Yeah, he was still having massive effects from it. I did a spreadsheet. Before the accident, we were on pole by an average of 0.3, I think it was. 0.3 down the road, average to everybody. And after the accident, we were off pole by 0.4. That was the average to the end of the season. So he lost half a second, 7/10, you know, like that. And we hung on, so he'd missed 5 races. We were hanging on. We still had the lead of the championship because we had such a buffer. But then we got, I think, to the last round at Silverstone and we lost the championship. So that was terrible for James, terrible for us, gutting for us. And that's where, you know, fast forward another 9 years or whatever it was to DJR, winning that championship was just bloody amazing, you know. And it was payback for the pair of us. We both wanted to give it each other, sort of thing, as a team. It meant so much. It was absolutely amazing. So we got so close, but look, he would have been all the way.
Well, all he needed to do was win that F3 championship, and he had to seat.
No, he was probably in that car, but every time he drove it, the thing fell apart. They went up to Silverstone, so I'd go to a couple of these tests and just help him sit there and look from the outside and advise and make sure he's got what he needed. And Silverstone, rolled up at Silverstone, he's already out. You see this Jag come through, bridge, rear wing falls off, spins. Oh, it's James. The car was a pile of crap. Mm. And then Monza, wishbone brakes. Look, you know they don't mean it. They're working with budgets or whatever. It's just fate. It's just the way it rolls. You don't know that they end up being Red Bull, you know, further down the stream. It's just life. It's just.
And Mark Webber comes in and.
Some people, sometimes you end up being in the right place. Yeah, totally. Sometimes you drop in the right place, right time. Sometimes you're 2 years out, or 2 years too late, or 2 years too early. You just never know how it's going to roll. But he would have been. He was special. And we went to Pau in France and absolutely wiped the floor with him. And he's crazy, you know. We parted, you know. We had some fun doing it, you know. He liked to have a laugh, old James. Yeah. And so it was just a great atmosphere in the team, you know. We'd win everything, you know. With Anthony, I think we won something like 32 out of 40 races in 1 year, and won it everywhere we went. We used to just win. It was good fun. Yeah,
and it's amazing how the universe gives us what we need. If you'd not met James Courtney in those moments, there's every chance that maybe you don't land here in Australia. So I'm interested to know what you thought when you did get down here and became part of the fabric of supercars, how you could compare the experience that you'd had racing in Europe to what we had done under.
I went to, so I got the phone call from James like 6 weeks later or whatever it was, saying, oh, you know, this team needs a team manager, are you interested? And like I say, the Midland thing was a train wreck. And then the missus said, if we're going to do it, let's go now. So I made the phone calls, had a couple of chats with Steve Chalker from DJR, and I flew over on a weekend off, flew to Perth. You guys were racing at Barbagallo. I flew over, had an interview. Charlie was there. Dick wasn't there for some reason, or I can't remember if Dick was there or not. But anyway, I went and hung out with him for the weekend. Flew back to London, and then did the deal over the phone. Arrived August that year, and then you sort of realised what was really going on in the team. You realised what a bloody mess it was. You know, being told we've got a budget and we've got this, and you get there, and you know, it was a very different team that I landed in. But it had great people, had some great people, and Dick and Jill were part of that. You know, they really made the transition for me and my wife and Darcy, my daughter. They made that very easy, and you know, I'll always be grateful for that. But it was you know, that's when I go back to the comment about the guys just being happy, being 10th or whatever, and I was like, no, I've not flown out here, I've not unearthed my family, moved to Australia to do that. We need to build something. And basically, I sort of said to him, some of you will last this journey, some of you won't. Those who don't, it's fine, not a problem. But we're going on a journey. And you're not all going to like it, and you're going to have to work, and we're all going to have to work as a team. And we put together, I think by the time we got to 2010 and we won that championship, I think out of 37 staff, I think I'd employed 31 of them or something. We had a big turnover, but we put together a fantastic group of people, and they're all energised and they all wanted the same thing. So we turned them, it wasn't just me, it took good people around me, it took support of Charlie and things like that. There was a lot of us that, you know, it took time. And we had to make some hard calls, really hard calls. You know, calls that really have had a long-lasting effect for Charlie. You know, the decision to we wanted to move Steve out of the team because we wanted to win. We needed to win. And whilst he's a great kid and he's the son of the owner, we knew we needed more. And that's why we went and signed James, because I knew firsthand what he could do.
Yeah.
And we needed that to win. And that's unfortunately where a bit of the friction came in for Charlie and DJ. But we had to turn it from a team that was trying to survive and happy surviving into something that wanted to win, and the people wanted to win and they wanted to do a better job. Now, I didn't know one end of a touring car from the other, but that wasn't my job to.
Yep.
My job was to put the pieces of the jigsaw together, try and help get the funding, get good engineers in, get good mechanics in, lift their standards, perform better in the pit lane, perform better as a team, so that then you can attract the right driver. And you attract the right driver and you can attract the right sponsors. We had Jim Beam on board, Ford were coming back. We were starting to turn the corner, but we had to make some hard calls, very hard calls, to get there. And not everyone would like them. But you're not here to make friends, you're here to win. And I wanted to bloody win tonight.
Yeah.
So you do it, you make the call that you need to make.
So does having landed now here at Team 18 feel like a bit of a full circle moment for you when you look back on where you really started here in supercars to where you are today? Is that still your pursuit? Are you still trying to make this
100%.
into the team that's going to be winning?
100%. It's very different. I mean, luckily we're fully funded and we've actually got good people.
Yeah.
But you have to make hard choices, and we made one at the end of last year. We knew we had to re-energise and change our driver lineup. That's not to say anything bad against the previous incumbent,
yep.
but you have to make hard calls for the good of the business, and it's not easy. It's not easy doing it, and some people unfortunately get a lot of criticism they shouldn't have. But the reasons why those decisions are made is because you're in pursuit of excellence. You're trying to win. You're going up against some really, really good quality teams and good driver lineups and engineering lineups. And to be as good as those, you've got to operate the same level, if not better than those guys. And it is a journey. I'm happy it's not the train crash that 2006 walking into DJR was. It's nowhere near that. But the bar has moved so much in the last 18 years. It's incredibly more. There are no dud teams on the grid anymore. Yep. There's no real dud drivers on the grid. You still get a few paying, and you get the ones earning. That's always the same. It's the same in F1. But so it's a journey we're on, 100%. But I'd like to think we're not, 10 stops away from success like we were before. Hopefully we're only a couple of stops away from success. But you still have to build the right team. You've got to get everyone working together. You've got to put the right talent in the right places. You've got to move talent. I have people that they're a square peg in a round hole. I need to put the square peg in a square hole and they'll perform better. Yeah. You don't have to shoot them and get rid of them. You just got to work out what their strengths are and allow them to deliver on, put them in an area where they're more comfortable and they're more productive. And so we got that. We got some great people, but it doesn't turn around overnight, unfortunately. You will want it now, you want it tomorrow, but that's not how it works.
Tell me all about your new driver lineup this year and why Anton and Dave are going to be the right combination to move Team 18 to the next level.
Yeah, look, we're incredibly excited to bring Anton on board. Him and Dave have got a great relationship already. They've had a very successful time together, but we needed to re-energise the team. And it's fair to say our average age was getting up there. Last guy, cracking job, incredible champion of the sport. But age catches up with everybody. So Anton, I think, is a perfect fit for our team. We're very serious about what we do, and as he is, and he's hungry. You need hunger. This is not a game of being friends. You've got to be ruthless. You've got to be quick. Anton's shown for many years how quick he is over one lap. So that's great. Hopefully that comes with him, and then we've got to turn that into results. Yeah. But equally at the same time, we've reorganised the engineering group. We've expanded it, brought in some good talent as well. So I think between the engineering restructure, having Anton on board, hopefully we're in for a year where we can deliver on our potential. Last year we had the potential, but we did not show any results. At times when we were quick, we just didn't get it to the line. We had Bathurst, Adelaide, I mean, I don't even need to mention it, but you know, those are weekends we can't do.
Yep.
We need to get the points on the board, but yeah, no, Anton's going to be great. He's moved down, he's in the factory every other day. He's bonded so well and so easily and so quickly with the engineering group and the mechanics. He's the perfect fit for Team 18.
Why was it important to tweak that engineering group? What difference is it going to make this year?
I think we definitely had, you know, we had the square peg in a round hole with one or two of the guys. So I think now we've adjusted a couple of the job titles. Well, not the job titles. We've adjusted the job, and we brought in another good, very good, strong, very clever engineer who will work with Anton. So Andrew Donnelly brings some great experience, and I've moved Son into a performance engineer role, which is really his train set. He's the perfect rocket scientist. So it's about, I think for me, it's not necessarily reinventing the whole wheel, it's getting everybody in the right place so they can do their job well and support them with the tools they need and the budget they need and the crew around them. So it's not just engineering, we've put more people on the shop floor. We've expanded the team by 3 people year on year. And I'm really happy with the recruitment. I think I've recruited well, but the proof will be in the pudding.
Mm-hmm. We saw some great speed from Dave at the end of last season. It's just missing that extra piece. What does that look like for you? What do you need to see from him this year?
I need to see Dave step up. You know, we all have to do a better job. I'm not singling out Dave, so we've got to give Dave a better car more often. I think last year there were definitely occasions where we had a good car, and I personally think, you know, Dave probably overdrove on a couple of occasions. Because we're probably not giving him a good car all year long, he's like, okay, we've got an opportunity this weekend, I need to deliver on it. And they're the moments when you've just got to pull it back 1%, you know, and not be 2 or 3% over the line. So Dave knows that, he's cool, he's very clever, he's been around a long time. He knows the game's about results. And I think Anton and him will have a great relationship. Anton's going to push him, and I'm more than sure Dave knows that. Dave's going to stand up and show Anton what he can do, and you give Dave a good car. I mean, look at the year before, he was winning races. So our job's to give him the better car, and he will deliver. They'll both deliver. So we're excited about the lineup we've got.
Where do you think you have the most potential in terms of the circuits that we're going to visit this year to come away with a trophy? Have you earmarked any particular place that you think is going to suit you? What are the goals?
We need to improve everywhere. You know, you can't just say, I can't wait to get to Darwin because they've had success there in the past. That's crap. We need to be quick everywhere. We made a few mistakes as a team last year, strategy-wise. We didn't do a great job at a couple of the events, but we need to be better everywhere. We need to be aiming at the top 6 every track. You can't afford to just live and dine on 1 or 2 weekends a year. That's not good enough. So, you know, the target is to have them both in the 10. And would be challenging for podiums and race wins. Yeah, that's what we're here for. We need silverware. So that's what we're going to do.
How are you expecting the format changes this year to shake things up? And how important is it going to be to have 1 or 2 of your drivers in the finals?
Yeah, well, the mandate, well, not mandate. Clearly we want both of the drivers in the finals. Everyone's going to want to do that. I think the biggest change for this year will be the tyre. Now the format is being tweaked, obviously, but so we'll need to make sure we really pay attention because there are a lot of changes in the format, but the biggest engineering change will be the tyre. What that does, it will suit some cars better than other cars. And it will be like 2009 or 8, whenever we brought the soft tyre out, a couple of people got on it quicker than others, and that can set you up. I mean, back in those days we had James, we won 4 races on the trot on that soft tyre, and that helped propel him and us to a championship. There will be a similar thing with this tyre. Whoever gets on it quick enough and changes their setup or adapts their setup to understand the intricacies of the tyre and how you use it, how you get the maximum out of it, I think they'll come out the gate running, and everyone's got to be careful that someone doesn't get a leg down the road and you can't catch them. But obviously we're working hard to make sure that that's us, you know, make sure that we understand the tyre and the changes that's brought to us better than anyone and quicker than anyone, and if we can do that, then we'll have a good year.
Is there always a little bit extra for you when we go to the Australian Grand Prix? You've got so many of your former colleagues and friends I imagine you spent a lot of time catching up with them, but also being able to show that, you know, you've had success down under and you want the teams that you represent to do well out there on track in front of all your friends and colleagues. Is there a little bit of that in you?
Oh, a little bit. I don't worry about trying to impress people.
No.
People will have whatever opinion of you that they have. And that it changes over your career. That's always the way. But I do enjoy going back there. I've got some great friends that we don't even need to email each other. We go to the same restaurant, 7:30 Wednesday night. I do enjoy that. It's funny. I like going, but I'm not the biggest fan of current F1. I don't really like the rule set. I don't like the way the cars have gone. It's getting better, I think, now. We're a little bit closer now. The competition's getting a bit better. There's 2 or 3 teams in there, which is good. But the years where you have all that dominance, whilst the respect they do to get that, because no one gave it to them. They worked hard for that. I respect that. But I think the fans switch off. Same in any sport. If you have one team winning, it's never great for business. So I do like going, do like catching up. But would I want to go and do that again? No. That's why I don't want to go back to the UK. If I went back to the UK, I'd want to do Formula 1.
Yeah.
But do I want to do 24 weekends? Probably not.
It's a big beast today.
It's a massive calendar now.
Yeah.
You know, we were doing 16, 17, but then we were doing testing as well. So we did a lot, but yeah, I still love it. Of course I love it. And I'm really happy McLaren won that Constructors' Championship.
Your papaya heart would be bursting through your shirt this year. I mean, they're shaping up to be one of the teams to beat.
Oh, let's hope so. It's great. I mean, I was part of the last Constructors' Championship they won in '98, so it's a weird one. You don't think about it, but it took them all that time to repeat what we did in '98. So yeah, that's fun and it's cool and it's good. But no, they're going great, which is great to see. And they've got 2 great drivers.
Yep.
Obviously, Lando being a Palmer, but Oscar's doing a fantastic job as well, which is great for the country.
Yep.
This country loves sport, which is one of the great things here. I love living here. They're passionate about everything. They're passionate about their racing. That can be good for you, it can be bad for you. It depends what shirt you're wearing, whether you're in a supercar shirt and you're just getting attacked for parity, for this, for that, whether you're a red fan or a blue fan, you know, using the old analogy. But yeah, Australia's a great, cool place. I love it here. I wouldn't want to go back to the UK. Well, apart from seeing my daughter.
Yeah, of course. You've been such an important part of that F1 story, but you've equally been as important to us here in Supercars. We could talk for hours about all your stories, and I hope there'll be more opportunity.
There's more.
Yep, I bet there is to
do.
That's a great idea.
Everyone's doing
Maybe
books.
I could write it for you.
You could.
Let's talk about that
Oh,
over curry on Wednesday night in Albert Park. No. Thank you for sharing your incredible stories. I hope you have a great weekend at the Australian Grand Prix. I look forward to being able to sit down and have another one of these chats sometime soon. Thanks, Adrian.
Look forward to it. Thank you.